so many of you here. It's amazing. It's probably my biggest crowd ever. And it's such a organizers done a great job of arranging the weather, and you all stuck here. So I'll try to make your time worse. So it's a joint work with my PhD student Andrey Mokhov. He's at Newcastle, Simon Marlowe from Facebook, and Jeremy Keenan from Jane Street. And so I know there's a few beginners here, and for you, selective applicative functors will sound like gobbledygook, and I'll try to explain all the concepts from first principles, but just to see how many people we have with different levels here. How many of you know what functors are? Oh, almost everyone. What applicative functors? Okay, so today we'll learn what selective applicative functors are. And yeah, let's start. By the way, some of you are quite far away, so if you want to download the slides on your mobile or laptop, if you go to my Twitter account, Andrey Mokhov, the slides are on my top tweet. So you just open the PDF there and follow along. Right, so shall I be pure or impure? Anyone knows where this quote is from? It's from Philip Butler. His famous paper about monads, and we're going to talk about monads today. And since all of you are Haskell programmers, so you being Haskell programmers, the answer you will give will probably be yes, of course I shall be pure. We love pure functions, but there is this tension, right? Pure functions don't do any side effects, but programs do. So how do we reconcile this? We want to have programs that are actually useful and doing something. And there is this pretty old already idea that instead of allowing our functions to do side effects, what we can do, we can use pure functions to describe programs that we compute. And so we just describe our programs, and the main function, the entry point of our programs, are going to be just descriptions of programs that will be executed by some other entity. In the case of Haskell, it's runtime systems. It takes a description and executes this. So it's a pretty simple idea and a very nice idea. It works very well. And a standard implementation of this idea is based on an abstract data type IO, and it's parameterized by the type variable A. And the meaning of IOA is this is a computation that may do some side effects, may do some input and output while being executed, but at the end it will return you a value of type A. Right? So you run it and you get back a value of type A. And we also provide primitives. The standard implementation provides primitive computations that do some side effects and compute something. For example, getLine. You execute it, it does some side effects, it reads a string from terminal and returns it to you. And put string line, it gets a string from you, and then returns you a primitive computation that when executed will print that string from the standard output. And then return you a unit. Unit, in this case, is just a token of completion. So you know that this function has completed, and then we can write a hello world program by just using this primitive directly. It prints the hello world on the screen. So we have these primitives, a lot of them. You can input and print strings, you can read files, you can delete files, you can do some network, I/O, etc. But we're still missing one important ingredient. We need to be able to compose these simple primitives into larger programs. And the way we do it in Haskell is there's this operator called bind. It's greater, equals, which is used exactly for this purpose. So it takes two parameters, two arguments. The computation that computes a value of type A, and then a pure function that, given such A at runtime, will tell you how to continue. What's the next computation is that will return you a value of type B. And this operator just glues these two pieces of the puzzle together. They have the same shape, it glues them together, and gives you a computation, compound computation that returns a value of type B. So it hides this intermediate value of type A for you. And here's an example where we directly compose getLine with bootstring line, and it's a simple active program. You run it, reads the value from the input, and prints it back to the terminal. And this pure function, that is the second parameter, can be quite involved. It doesn't have to be bootstring line directly, right? You can actually modify the name that you read the string, and you maybe append hello to it, and you can greet the user. Right? It's a simple greeting program. So there can be any function here. So you can generate an arbitrary dynamic effect. This is what we can say about it. So it's an effect that is determined at runtime by this function. This is a way of composing computations, pure computations, using pure functions in Haskell. And it's so popular, and it was such a revelation for the whole community that before this, you had to write programs in a very convoluted style with some streams of responses and requests. It was very complicated. When people realized we can do this, they got so excited we can put this bind and lambda as a logo class. Right? So it's, and also now it's in the logo of the Zurich hack. There's also a special syntax sugar to make such programs easier to type, and which removes these bind operators and replaces it with white space essentially. So you can write the same program with just almost like a usual imperative program which you would write in any other language. So this operator for composing computations has been studied for a while by mathematicians before it got into functional programming. And if you're interested in history, you can read this very nice paper by Andrey Mokhov. It was written in the beginning of the 90s, where monads are used for describing computations from practical standpoint. And it's quite a dense paper. It's difficult to read. I don't understand everything from it, but if you know and you look at the examples in this paper, you will realize that actually all these examples, we use them in everyday programming in Haskell. They're all different kinds of monads. So I was talking about the I/O monad, but there are other monads, like mega monad, which is used to model partial computations. List monad, state monad, and all other monads that we use every day, they can be found as examples, just written in a slightly different mathematical notation in this paper. That bit later, Philip Waldorf translated that paper, or ideas from that whole community, into the language accessible to functional programmers like myself. And this one is a very nice paper. You should definitely read it. The opening quote was for this paper shall be pure and pure. And it has lots and lots of examples of different monads out there. And all these monads use the same operation, bind, for composing computations. So there are many monads out there, not just I/O, and it turns out we can abstract over this interface. So there's this operator bind. We can abstract over the actual monad that we use. Instead of just writing this operator for monad and for I/O and writing functions that operate with I/O computations, we can write functions that operate with any other monad. And we use the type class monad for that. And it has two methods. So one of them is bind, the same as we've seen with I/O. But the other one is returnative. It is used to embed pure values into this impure world of computations. So you forgetting that they were pure and treating them as if they were impure. And here's an example of how we can program against this interface without thinking specifically about I/O, about maybe, about list or anything else. So this is a function called run_m, which allows you to perform an effective condition. So it takes two arguments. The first argument, which I call x here, is a computation that computes a Boolean, true or false. And then there's a computation that just returns zero, maybe it's printing something on the screen. And if the first computation returns true, you are going to execute this second argument. Otherwise, you're going to skip. So it's a conditional execution, and this is how we can implement it, right? We use bind here. We look at the value produced by the first computation, the value b. So we look at runtime. Is it true or false? If it's true, then we just return the second argument as a computation to perform next. Otherwise, we do return unit. It's like a null in one command. We're just saying there are no side effects, and just take this token and go ahead with it. This is the token of my condition. And here's a simple example of how we can use such a function. So let's implement a program that does sort of a ping pong interaction with the user. So you enter a string, and if it was a ping, the program will output pong. If it was something else like hello, the program will not output ping. That's a conditional execution of the print of the put string line pong. So this is a simple computation that we'd like to make conditional. How do we do it? Well, our getLine function reads a string, but what we want is a Boolean. So how do we turn a string into a Boolean? Here's where the functor class becomes useful. So a functor allows you to transform a value computed by some impure computation, like write a pure function to result. Right? So we have a getLine here. It computes a string, and we apply the test for equality for p to this string. And if the string is equal to p, it will get true, otherwise it will get false. So this, the first argument is now going to be of type I/O bool. And now all the types match, and this is the realization of this simple example, monadic ping pong. Okay, monads are great, and they are pervasively used in Haskell and for all sorts of applications. But sometimes they intervene. Sometimes we hit the limitations that comes with this interface of composite limitations. And I'm going to mention a couple of limitations. The first one is that it's sequential in nature. Right? Until we finish the first computation that returns a value of type A, there's just no way we can start the second computation because we just don't even know what it's going to be. It's going to be generated dynamically by this function, right? From A to B. Until the first part is finished, there is no way to proceed. So it's sequential in nature. And sometimes parallelism is very useful. Right? If you want user interfaces and everything else, and lots of applications require parallelism, there's just no way to express it in this monadic interface. What we really want in this case is a combinator like this, where given two independent computations, one that is type A and another that is type B, it returns a pair of A and B together. So it can run them independently, it doesn't need to wait until the first one is finished. You can start both of them in parallel and combine results. So this is something that we would like to have, but we don't get it immediately from the monadic interface. Now, the second limitation is somewhat linked to the first one, but it arises in a different context. Sometimes you might want to inspect your computation ahead of time. Before you execute your impure computation, you might want to look inside and see what are all the possible effects that it might execute. Well, maybe because you want to pre-allocate some computational resources. Maybe if you have a computation which accesses a database, maybe you want to connect the database or something like that. Maybe if it doesn't use the database, maybe you want to skip the step, right? So, and if you look at our print, for example, you can clearly see, or we as programmers, that there are only two possible effects here: the getLine effect and the toStringLine effect. But if we just in line definition of WebM, what they're going to see is that, well, there's definitely getLine, but then it's followed by a function which requires a runtime value B. And we don't know what's going to happen. So until we have this runtime value B, we don't know what's going to be ahead of us. In this case, well, we could cheat, right? We could try both false and true because we know that just two possible values and see what's going to be in all possible cases. But in cases like the greeting function that we had, right? We get line and then there is a name here. We just can't try all possible names. So we're completely stuck here. There's just no way to statically analyze the rest of the computation. All we know is that we will start with getLine, and that's it. The rest is okay. So people have found ways around this, and one of the most popular ways around this is called applicative functors. They were introduced in this paper by Andrey Mokhov and Functors in 2008, and this introduces a new abstraction, which is in some sense similar to monads, but it just uses a different operator. Instead of monad, instead of bind, sorry, it uses this operation which I'm going to call apply. So it takes two computations, one that computes a function, and another that computes the argument for this function, and then just applies the function to the argument and produces you a new computation which produces the result. Right? It has slightly different shape than the one which I thought I mentioned we were looking for, right? But actually it's equivalent to it. You can rewrite one in there now, it's fairly easy. It's just basically here you would get a function and the argument together, and here we just apply one to another and just get the value in one step. Okay, so what do we see here? Now we no longer have functions that generate continuations. Right? So everything, all the effects are now going to be declared and visible statically. You will see exactly everything that's going to happen in the computation, so you can use it for static analysis of computations. And also, you can, if you want, you can start both the computations in parallel because there are no dependencies between them. You can compute the function in parallel with the argument and combine. Right? So this different approach to composing impure computations gives you some advantages, but you also lose something, right? So now the computations are completely independent. So there's just no way to have any conditional execution. There's just no way to implement functions like the greeting program that we wrote in the first slide. So we gain something, but we lose also something. By the way, if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask if you're stuck in our slides. So we don't have conditional execution. So this example, we just cannot implement it in the applicative interface. Right? This part, if it equals to p, there's just something we cannot express in applicative constraint because all actions must be independent. So the closest we can come to is something like this, which a program that prints POM unconditionally, right? So it's ampersand string, then prints a POM. And what we do here, we need to bring the arguments into the right shape. So the get line, we have no use for the strings that the get line produces, so we just replace it with the identity function, so the type patch. Now we can compose this computation with the apply operator, and we get this ping pong example, which is somewhat useless, but in this case it's best we can do. Okay, so just to recap, monadic and applicative approaches are quite similar in the sense that they just use an operator to compose primitive computations, and in the end, you end up with computation trees. In the case of a monad, you have a binary tree where leaves are primitive actions, or maybe return statements, and the internal nodes are just binary operators, right? But you don't see the complete tree up front. You only see the beginning, the head. You see the get line, and then as you go along, as you execute the monadic computation, you get to see more and more of the tree. You get the make example of the read file, where x actually depends on the value you read from the input. Maybe after you read the contents of the file, you find out actually now you want to print something in the string, and so on until you end up the tree is exhausted and you finish up with some primitive action over your return statement. This is how monadic computations look like. So layers after layers after layers. And this is how applicative computations look like. You immediately see the whole tree. You immediately see everything. Now instead of binds, you have applies as internal nodes. And furthermore, the other difference is that the arguments to these primitives like read file and put string, they are already fixed up front. They cannot be dependent on, for example, the result of get line. Right? So everything is fixed up front. All the effects are there. And you can, for example, one possible application for the static analysis here. You can examine this computation, it reads a file welcome.txt, and maybe you download this from your cloud storage before running this computation so that it actually is 66 bits, right? If it doesn't contain a read file, then you don't have to do that. Okay, so we've looked at two ways of composing computations. Monads and applicative functors. So let's look at just as a summary of features that they have. Arbitrary dynamic effects is something that is required to write a program like this greeting program, right, which reads in a string and then uses the string to create an arbitrary effect which goes next. You can do this with monad, you cannot do this with applicative functors. Conditional execution of effects is a kind of simple requirement. You don't want to generate arbitrary effects, but you just want to enable or disable effects, right? Switch it on and switch it off. Right? This is something, again, that applicative functors cannot do, but monads can. On the other hand, if you want to express independence of effects, if you want parallelism, you have to go for applicative, for the apply operator. And the same goes for static visibility of all the effects before the computation starts. So you can, in principle, by looking at this tree ahead of time, you can function like this. Get me all the effects that are in the tree, or check is the computation pure or not. So this is some the functions you can write for applicative functions, but you cannot write them for monads. Okay, so there is a suggestive row in between. This is something that I've discovered during my work on this paper. There's one interesting feature that neither applicative functors nor monads can express. This is speculative execution. So I found these interesting combinators in the Haxel library, parallel and and parallel or. So what do? They take two computations which produce bool, and if both of them, or parallel and, if both of them return true, the resulting computation also returns true. But in order to be the most as efficient as you like, how are you going to implement this? You're going to start both computations in parallel. And if the first one, for example, returns false, you want to abort the second computation because it's no longer needed. You know the result is going to be false, right? So this is what I call speculative execution. So we cannot implement this using monads or applicative functors. So just to check that you're following closely. So why can't we implement this using monads? Any suggestions? Yes? Pardon? Yes, exactly. Monads require you to execute things in sequence, and we want to start them in parallel. Good point. What about applicative functors? Why can't we express this using applicative functors? Yeah?
You can't do conditional running.
Pardon?
You can't do conditional.
Yeah, so we cannot cancel. I mean, applicative functors require you to complete both tasks all the time. And then you get a function, you get an argument, you apply one or the other. So there's no way to express the fact that you would like to cancel one of the computations. This result is no longer required. Okay, so, and in this talk I'm going to introduce this abstraction in between that has these T boxes, right? So, yes, it cannot do arbitrary dynamic effects, but it can do conditional execution effects. It cannot express dependence effects, because there is some, so it can have a limited form of dependence. But on the other hand, it can do split execution. And what I find interesting is that each of these abstractions has its own superpower, right? So applicative functors, their superpower is independent effects, right? This is something that only they can do. Monads can do arbitrary dynamic effects, and speculative execution is for selective functors. Well, before I discovered this middle row only during the process of writing the paper. So my initial thoughts were that the superpower of selective functors could be the combination of conditional execution and static analysis. This is also a superpower that applicative functors mods don't have. But it turned out that there is one other in this application which was a complete surprise, of course. Okay, so this is the main slide of my presentation. Everything you need to know is here, and everything else you can just forget. So this is a new way of composing effects. So we call it selective operator. It has two arguments. The first one computes an either a value of type A or a value of type B, and it's used to decide what to do next, to select what to do next. So if it's a value of type left A, notice that in the end you have to produce a B. Right? If it's a value of type A, you need a function. So you have to execute the second argument. Get a function and apply it to A to obtain a B. But if you've got a right B value, then you have no use for this function. You already got a B, so you can just return it. So this is allows you to express conditionality of effects. So all the effects still have to be declared up front. But now you have a choice. In runtime, you have a choice whether you execute an effect or not. And maybe you can even terminate this second computation somewhere in memory. Right? This is how it allows you to express speculative execution. Right? So maybe you start them in parallel, and as soon as you realize the first one returns a right, you cancel out the second one. So this is where speculative computation comes from. And we also, I will be using this operator sometimes for instead of select, and its its shape is reminiscent of applicative operator apply. It just has a question mark on the right hand side because we don't know whether we are going to need this value or not up front. We definitely need the value on the left hand side, as for the right hand side we don't know. So yeah, we get static visibility of effects, we get speculative execution, and some limited form of dependence. So what we cannot do, we cannot do arbitrary dynamic effects. This is still something that's not possible because we have to list all the effects up front. And for example, in the greeting program, we would have to list all possible hello Simon, hello Andrey, hello everyone. Right? So we'll have to list all possible effects there. It will just be impossible. Okay, so here's how we implement our ping-pong example with selective functors. So here is a way to implement when S container. So we have when M for nuts, when S is for selective functors. It's not the prettiest code out there. It requires a bit of thinking what it's actually doing. It's a bit messy to use all these lefts and rights and either's. But the main idea is very simple. So we have an F bool, but our select operator requires an either. So we just need to re-encode our bool as an either between two unit types. So we are going to map true to left and false to right. And then we're going to use the select operator. So the right will choose to apply select. Because if it's left, we will choose to apply the effect, otherwise we will choose to skip. And so this is how we implement the conditional execution effects using selective functors. And lots of other combinators that typically associated with monads. Lots of conditional kind of structures, they can be implemented on top of selective interface. So when, as I showed, branch is a very interesting puzzle, so try to implement this function using only the select operator. It's not obvious, but it's possible. If S is just sort of an if statement if in the selective functor, what's interesting is that we can use it to implement a function which are called bind bool, which is almost like a bind. Oh, well, it is a bind, but specialized for Boolean values in the first computation, right? So you get you basically just this function, the continuation. You just try it for false, apply it to false, apply it to true, and you list all possible effects, right? So this is similar to the example I was showing in the limitations slide. Right? How can we analyze when m computation? We try both true and false, right? And see what are the possible continuations. In this case, this is exactly what we are doing. We are trying false and we are trying true, and we are doing this if statement, if to a selective function. And we can in fact generalize this to any enumerable type. So for any type that we can enumerate, we can write a function like this, which is so it brings us very close to a monad, but not close enough in the sense that if you've got something that's not enumerable, you just cannot implement this. These combinators are interested in the context of speculative execution because they allow you to some instances of selective functions can choose to implement them in a way which run both arguments parallel and then terminate all the computations in runtime. And in fact, what we've done is as part of our work with Haxel had this custom implementations for parallel add and parallel or. We just removed them and replaced them with calls to our library, and instead implemented instance for selective functions for the Haxel. And in this way, we managed to just save some code, so push some code into the library. So all Haxel needs to do is just implement the selective instance of Haxel. So here's how one potential hierarchy might look like maybe in 20, 30 years from now, because nobody would want to insert one other type class in this hierarchy at this point. But no, we can dream, right? So sometime, maybe in a different lifetime, we will have something like this. And then this gives you a very interesting categorization of all different effects. So we are kind of trying to find a way to model imperative programming in pure functional worlds. So what we are discovering various different operators hidden in and used by imperative programmers every day, but they are different and they allow to express different things. So I want to clarify the relationship between kind of different functors in this hierarchy. Between, for example, applicative functors and selective functors and monads. So that's the types. Does it have time? Yeah. So what's the relationship between applicative functors and selective functors? So first of all, it's not difficult to implement a function which I call select A, which has exactly the same type signature as our select operator. It takes an f of either AB, it takes a function to handle A's, and returns FB. Right? So what you do is just you execute both types all the time. You get the either, you get the function, and then you just apply the function to that case, and that's it. Right? So you can implement this function. So every applicative functor can also be given an instance of selective. So this is somewhat this is something that confused me a lot, and also confuses some people who come across selective functors. So there's no distinction in terms of like instances within these top structures. It's only the new method that makes a difference, right? Every applicative functor is also a selective functor, but maybe in multiple possible ways, as we will see, because of this extra method of select, which gives you some flexibility. So some applicative functors use select equals select A directly as implementation is fine. We can also go backwards, right? We can, using the select, we can implement the apply operator of the shape, which is used by applicative functors. How do we do it? Well, we have to execute both the effects. So we just tag the function with the left, which forces us to implement both of the effects all the time. So this is how we can. So we can, in some sense, we can get select from apply, we can apply from select, but by doing this, we always lose something, right? Because they have unique superpowers. Remember, if we go on the top, when we do this implementation, we essentially lose the ability of executing effects conditionally. here, what we lose is the knowledge of independence of effects, right? If you use apply operator, you know that effects cannot depend on each other. But if you try to re-encode this using select, you lose information. Now, syntactically, you look at the computation, select of two computations, and you think that they may be independent between them, because it will not be apparent just by looking at the tree of the computation that there is a left hidden inside of one of the arguments. There's always a left, right? So you lose something by doing this. But there are some selective functors for which this law holds, for which this property holds. So some selective functors actually can use apply equals up s in the implementation of applicative instance, and we call such selective functors rigid, because they have sort of very rigid structure in the sense that the apply doesn't produce any difference. You can just use select operator and that's it. And this leads us to a very simple free construction, which is a sequence of apply of select operations one after another. Okay, now back to trees. We used to have a tree which just applies as a general nodes and primitive effects and maybe pure values as leaves. And with selective functors, we now have one extra node. So remember, we still keep apply. We keep applying, but we also now add select as another possible internal node. And what this means now, some parts of this tree are sort of, they're not black boxes, as in the case of monads, they're sort of gray boxes. We know that there are these effects that possibly going to be executed, and we don't know for sure whether they actually execute. Relationship with monads. So monads are more powerful in the sense that you can easily implement this type signature with a monad. You just execute the first computation, you get the divisor, and then you pattern matching the result, and if it's right, just return the B, otherwise it will fall the same. So it's very straightforward. Again, you lose something here. You lose, for example, speculative execution because monads always execute things one by one. And you also lose static visibility because now you can combine, you have a function, so you lose it. By re-encoding select operator, via monad, you lose something. So if you had George Wilson in the audience, he would have shouted a long time ago, what are the laws for selective functors? And here are the laws. I mean, laws are not very pretty, I admit, especially the associativity one, but they follow the same shape as the laws for monads and the laws for applicative functors. We always have laws that tell you what to do if one of the arguments is pure. So the first law tells you if the second argument is pure, you can just absorb it into the first computation, right? Because selective functors allow you to skip effects, and if there are no effects, you can just absorb the pure part into the first argument. The second law, which I call distributivity, is about the first argument being pure. It's like having an if statement whose condition is pure. It has no side effects. Then if you have such an if statement with a sequence of actions, you can always rewrite this if statement in that there's two if statements followed one by one another. Right? Because the condition is not side effective, it doesn't matter if you execute them all in one code, in the Zen part, or if you split them into multiple if statements. It shouldn't matter. This law requires and associativity. So all those trees which I was showing you, by using the laws from monads or applicative functors, you can always reshape them in the sense that you can always reassociate them to the left, for example. And this associativity law also allows you to do that with selective computations. Right? You can, given a computation where you have parentheses on the right, you can reshape it in the computation where here are parentheses on the left, here and here. This law tells you that it should be possible to do it. And it's very important, for example, for the free selective functors, which it always allows to bring computations into one SQL normal form where everything is left associated and starts with a pure head which selects which effects to perform. And if your instance is also a monad, we require this law. So why do we want this law? It makes it easier to reason about code. So if you had some code which used some conditional statements like when and it had a monad m constraint in it, now we can switch to selective m constraint, and the code should work as it worked before. Right? So there should be no semantic changes. So the code would work as if you executed everything in sequence. maybe internally you execute something in parallel, like Haxel does. Right? Haxel actually runs things in parallel because the effects it does are not observable. They are reads from databases. So you cannot observe whether you run everything in sequence or in parallel. So the actual implementation may not necessarily use this as a definition. It may be doing something more tricky, but you want that at the semantic level, this quality, you want this quality called semantic level, not definition necessarily. In the last part, last 5 minutes, I'd like to focus on const functors and just show you 2 possible instances that we can give to the const functor. So const is a classic applicative functor from that paper by McBride and Patterson, and it's a surprisingly useful instance. I don't have time to actually show you use cases of const, but you can talk to Applicative, ask him how he uses const in his math library. You can also talk to Simon Pettit-Jones and Neil Mitchell if he's somewhere. So they will tell you how they use const functors to extract dependencies from build systems. Right? So it's a surprisingly useful functor. And its definition is very mysterious. I mean, it was very mysterious to me when I saw it the first time. It says const m of type A is a computation of type A, but it holds no values of type A. So A is a functor type parameter. And all const functors do, they simply accumulate the trace, the trace of the computation, right? And this payload m. But m is just a value which has no content, empty, and there is an operation for combining payloads. The angle bracket. So it's one way you can have the empty payload and a way to combine payloads. And here are the definitions of the functor. And relative instances of functor, if you want to apply a pure function to the contents of this const functor, you don't need to do anything because there is no values of type A. You just ignore the function, you just return the same payload as you had before. If you want to inject a pure value, you forget the pure value, you just have the empty payload. And if you want to apply one const functor to another, you just combine the payloads. So it's a very mysterious looking functor, and it has 2 interesting variants. There are 2 possible instances you can give in the selective world. One we call over, because it allows you to over-approximate effects. So the definitions of functor and applicative are the same, and here is the definition of selective. It's exactly like in the apply case. So if you want to select, given 2 arguments, we just accumulate payloads. So what this says is that we just pretend that all effects are going to be executed. This allows you to over-approximate the effects. If you're talking about build systems, for example, you can use it to extract the over-approximation of all your build dependencies. So then maybe you can download it from the network before your build starts. And similarly, you can have the under functor. The only difference is here, we just discard the second argument in select. And we are saying, well, I don't care about the conditional part, just tell me what are the effects that you are definitely going to execute. So for the under and over give us interesting bounds on the possible effects that we can have in application. So we start with a tree like this, so over will just remove this gray box around some of the parts of the tree, and under will just remove the grayed out parts of the tree. There are a couple of properties that often hold, but not always, and they are not laws. So they look like they might be laws. And some people ask, why don't you have a law like this? So I call them pure left and pure right. So if you have a pure value which is left, and it's applied to possibly side effect value, so you have a left A, then we might want to say, well, we have to absorb it with the second argument. After all, there's nothing we can do with left A. If we want a B in the end, we need to apply a function to it. But this is not the case. Look at the definition of under. Right? Under has no values of type A at all. So it can return you the input argument as is, so it doesn't have to follow that law. So if we have this law, it would rule out under, and there's a symmetric law for pure right, it would demand to skip unnecessary effects. Right? If you've got a right B value, right, then you know that you don't need this second argument. You just return it as is. And so sometimes People ask, why don't you require this? Because you want instances like over. They allow us to over-approximate all possible effects. And it's their purpose to over-approximate, to actually perform these unnecessary effects all the time. So we don't want to have this law, but many instances actually do satisfy these laws. For example, all monads do, and this follows from the select equals select m. I'll round up with just a list of possible applications that we have found for selective functors. In general, I started to look at it as part of my project on build systems. Last year we had a paper about categorization of build systems. We looked at applicative build systems, monadic build systems. But there was a build system out there, it's called Dune, it's developed by J Street, which is neither of those. It allows you to do the over-approximation of possible dependencies. And it didn't fit into this picture, so there was like a missing abstraction out there. And now we can say that Dune is a selective build system. It allows you to over-approximate dependencies. It doesn't allow you to arbitrarily navigate dependencies. It allows you to over-approximate dependencies. Libraries like Axel that care about performance, about parallelism, about speculative executions, they can take advantage of selective functors by just pushing some of the ad hoc implementations of Kubernetes as a library. They can just reuse Kubernetes for the libraries and write in their own. And they often end up writing conditional statements like this, where you have one condition and another condition. And if all you have is a monad, then obviously you would put like a simple condition first, the one which you know takes less time. You would put it first, and if it yields true, then you will go for a more complex condition. But if you don't know which one is cheaper, you're stuck, you don't know in which order to put them. So this is where speculative execution is beneficial. And even more so, if you have more than just two such. If there's an end not of two conditions, but of 3 or 10, like maintaining the right order is very hard. So if the cost of these conditions changes all the time, it will be very difficult to maintain the right order and to execute them almost from the cheapest to the most expensive. So speculative execution is very advantageous. My PhD student, Georgi Lukyanov, he works on modeling process instructions. And he found out that instructions can be categorized in a very interesting way, quite similar to the build systems, the way we categorize build systems. So there are instructions like incrementing a register. They are functorial because they need just one argument. There are functions like adding to the two, adding contents of registers. They are applicative. They need to collect multiple arguments. And there are functions like branching. And branching turned out that they're just selective. And the monads are instructions that some processes have for indirect indexes. So you go to memory, you read a value, and then you interpret this value as address and go ahead and read from that address. So those instructions, they are monadic. So it's interesting that instructions can be categorized in this way. And also, something that I'd like to investigate, and I encourage you to investigate as well, if you could make use of selective functors for parsing, because people often use alternative to express possible alternatives when parsing. And this requires backtracking. So you try to parse it this way, if it fails, you try another alternative. The selective functors allow you to choose directly the path for parsing. You parse the initial statement, then you choose whether to apply one parser or another parser if asked. That's all I wanted to say, and just the final note is that selective functors provide you two abilities. So their superpowers are speculative execution and combination of stabilizers with branching. This is something that other functors and monads cannot do. And we have a paper about this. I encourage you to read it if you got interested. It's a long paper, it has a lot more contents than I could explain in my talk. And there's also a library package. Lots of interesting ongoing work. For example, how do we compose selective functors? So we know that we can compose applicative functors. We cannot compose monads. Can we compose selective functors? I don't really know. Maybe not. Maybe we can. Maybe in some limited cases only. If you have any ideas, please talk to me. Here's how you can reach me. And thank you for your attention. And thanks for your help.
We have some time for questions, if there are any.
So you find that the short-circuiting or network operators are symmetric, right? That you can short-circuit, you can kind of abort either the first or the second. But select isn't it, but all symmetric.
Yeah. Last part. So the question was, the parallel and parallel OR combinators, they are symmetric. We might want to cancel the right-hand side, but we might also want to cancel the left-hand side with the right-hand side we did earlier. We cannot do this using select, you are right. And in our paper we have a different version of the selected type class. It's a slightly more complicated select operator that is symmetric, which allows to cancel both on the left and on the right. It's just a bit more complex to explain, that's why I decided to focus on the simplest presentation. But it's a spot on, that is an issue, and it's over.
Andrey, when you speak about speculative execution, that sounds like parallelism and stuff going on in the world and cancelling things and so forth. So, whereas in the world of monads, then even if you're just working with lists and maybes, monads are still useful to you. So is selective functors useful even if you're just doing good old functional programming with no effects in the world and no parallelism? Or is it somehow inherently tied up with this sort of external stuff?
Thanks. I've been looking at simpler.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was the speculative execution is about maybe complex systems where we have lots of parties, about very complex monads. But what about simpler monads like maybe or list? Can we make use of selective combinators there? And my answer is I don't know. First of all, and second of all, I looked at simple examples, and what I found interesting is the zip list. For example, so zip list, you can give it a selective instance, and it starts to look a little bit like executing multiple GPU threads. But again, it goes into this parallelism and big systems. You always execute programs in lockstep. You always execute exactly the same instructions. And in zip list, some of the threads will be just dormant. They will be skipping this step, and some of the threads will be actually doing the execution. So a selective instance for zip list, for example, makes a lot of sense. It's very natural for zip lists. Whereas selective instance for lists, not that convinced. Maybe they're not useful for lists. But maybe somebody in the audience will find out how they can use it.
You mentioned that you can select to any enumerable data type. Can you elaborate on that? Because it sounds interesting if selective denotation is up for a hack, right?
So the question is, I mentioned that we can write bind for any enumerable data type using selective constraint. And can we make use of this for denotation? I think the answer is yes. We can probably have something like selective do extension, which allows you to write do blocks that only incur selective constraint as long as you don't do things like join, for example. In these cases, whenever you do bind, you will have to be using an enumerable type. If you do bind on not enumerable type, it will just not compile. If you bind on enumerable type, it will just use that bind as operator, which is not very difficult to implement. And maybe it will be useful for some applications, yes.
You mentioned that you have laws.
I don't see the word.
You mentioned you have laws for these applicative functors. Is this an axiomatization, or does this question doesn't make sense?
Well, I have a slide about laws, all of them summarized here. The laws for applicative functors are here.
But is it an axiomatization?
Well, it's a requirement. So whenever you write an instance of applicative functors, you're supposed to check that all these laws are satisfied. Otherwise, you might be breaking somebody else's code, which relies on these laws to hold. It's not checked by the compiler. It's not, I mean, in some sense, yeah, you can call these axioms, and then you can prove some interesting theorems on the basis of these axioms. But I think Haskell programmers typically think of them as just being convenient laws which you can use to refactor your programs.
You've mentioned that you have a symmetric version of selective type class, but I can see it anywhere on Hackage.
I think it's also on Hackage, but you better look in the paper. If you follow this link, I think it's section 7. in section 06, there's a section, it's called symmetric operators, and the operator is called bi-select, bi-select.
Okay, thank you.
So we typically make one class a superclass of another if we can express every method of the first using the second. For example, applicative is superclass of monad because we can define app using bind. But you have a slide where you say that we can make any applicative into a selective functor. And another slide you say that applicative is a superclass of selective. So shouldn't this relation be flipped? Because we can make any applicative into selective, therefore selective is a superclass of applicative.
Well, if I can briefly summarize the question, well, what about like flipping this dependent? What about saying that selective is a superclass of applicative rather than doing it vice versa? So it may be possible. I mean, it's a bit more difficult in the sense that you have to then bring pure into the selective functors and remove it from applicative functors, which would be less in terms of trying to fit it into the existing hierarchy. But also, I think fundamentally, the notion of independence is somewhat, to me, it feels more foundational. So you want to start by being able to express independent computations, and then if you want some extra power, you would want to incur an extra constraint on selective if you want to be conditioned without effects. It just, to me, it sounds much more natural to start with applicative functors and then extend it with give it a bit more power with selective functors, then a bit more power with monad. This hierarchy feels more natural to me.
Any more questions?
Very nice presentation and tough. I just wish to ask you if you could elaborate on using selective functors for GPU instances. I mean, how we could do that?
It's not for sort of using, it's just for. So the question was, how can we use selective functors for GPUs? It's just an observation that the simplest instance that we can give by just defining select equals select A is very similar to what happens in GPUs, where multiple programs are running in lockstep. And some of the stress, multiple threads are around lockstep, and some of them just skip effects occasionally when you hear branching, while some other threads execute this, right? So, and this is exactly the implementation we get by saying select equals select A.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Can you say a bit more what you mean by static analysis and give an example of using static analysis, something you could do with applicatives or selective applicatives with monads?
So can I give an example of static analysis? So here's one, right? So here I see the whole computation up front as with applicatives, and for example, I know for sure that this computation will read file welcome.txt, right? And I can, for example, use this information to download this file from the net before I run the program, right? Before I run this computation. If I used a monad, I wouldn't be able to do this because it would be hidden by the very first apply. Right? So, in context where you have like resources to allocate, or in context like Capsule, where you want to see the whole tree because you want to batch multiple resources, multiple queries together. Maybe if you have another read file, welcome.txt somewhere else, you might want to read only once and share the result, for example. This is what Haxel does. So seeing the whole computation tree up front gives you all these abilities. Prefetch resources, batch multiple queries into the same query, things like this.
But this kind of analysis is only possible if you have something like a free applicative, or if you can.
Well, free applicative or free selective, yeah.
Okay, so you cannot do this with ordinary I/O code, even if it's written in.
But even if you use your own applicative data type, right? because you build up using apply operators. You always have a structure like this. Maybe you have a constructor for apply, constructor for view, and a constructor for lifting an effect into your data type. So you can always analyze the data. Whereas if you had a client constructor, you wouldn't be able to because you will have a
Functional argument.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's thank Andrey again.